And we are live. Live. I'm going slightly earlier live today because I'm also gonna go live on Instagram. Right over there. So gotta prepare both of them at the same time. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. We are live. Right now we're live on YouTube and Instagram. This over here is YouTube. Say hello to Instagram. Instagram, say hello to YouTube over here. So we're live on two different platforms and we're gonna brew a delicious, hopefully, cup of coffee. Let's see how that goes. I'm just letting people trickle in. But yeah, trying out dual live streaming and hopefully it should be fine. If you haven't known, I've kind of like live streamed for around 50-ish times now on YouTube, and adding just another layer, which is Instagram, it's probably not that hard. So hopefully this will turn out well. Let's see. Cool. Okay, so let's start off. We are brewing these beans by Matteo. I got them in a Kaffebox subscription by Kaffebox, and yesterday we did some cupping with these beans, and the cupping went really well. I really enjoyed these beans over here that were from Kenya, and they had like this delicious berry-like taste with a lot of juiciness going on, so it was a lot of potential that I saw in the cupping session. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna brew a cup of coffee with it, with the Kalita Wave. Actually, no, with the Hario V60. So, we'll bring that down. And the Hario V60 will be using the Tetsu Kasuya 4-6 method. If you haven't tried this method, it's a pretty straightforward and simple method, but it has a lot of steps that you kind of need to like calculate beforehand to get your recipe steps proper. So I'll explain to you how this works, and hopefully you can maybe try this technique at home too. Let me turn down my water. Okay, so what is the Tetsu Kasuya 4-6 method? Well, pretty much they divide the brewing doses into a 40% water amount and then a 60% water amount. So let's say we're brewing with 300 grams of water, and what happens is that now you need to take that 300 grams of water and divide it into a 40% chunk and a 60% chunk. So in this case, 300 turns into 40%, 120 grams, and the 60% turns into 180 grams. So how it works is that the 40% is supposed to deal with sweetness and acidity. So these two chunks deals with sweetness and acidity, and this over here deals with strength. Now, if you decrease the first amount, you get more sweetness. Yes. So if, for example, you do a 40 gram dose in the beginning and like an 80 gram dose over here, you will have more sweetness according to the technique. And if you do the inverse, meaning let's say 40 grams over here and 80 grams over here in the beginning, you will have a more acidic or acid-focused cup of coffee. Now that is how sweetness and acidity is balanced in the beginning over here. Now looking at the other side, this controls strength. And the way you control strength over here is by increasing or decreasing the different segments. So right now it's in 3 different segments. Well, if you want to increase the strength of the brew, you just add another 2 or 3 segments and split the 180 even more. So you can divide this by 5 instead, for example, to add more strength. Or you can maybe just have a single pour of 180 grams to have the least strength. And that is the concept of the Tetsu Kasuya 4-6 method. And that's what we're going to brew with today. Straightforward, kinda. I would say if you want to look more into it, I'll probably make a tutorial about this down the road. But right now we're just going to brew with it and hopefully get a good cup of coffee. Let's begin. So, moving the cameras down, let's see it like this, and like this. Nice. Let's measure out our beans. And I'll also put this right over here. Something like so. So we're measuring out 20 grams of coffee. The beans look like so. Smells delish. So we're also grinding it at a slightly coarser grind setting. That is what is required with this technique. So I have my setting at around 40 over here, which is close to French press. I'll show you how it looks like. So this is the grind size. What I'll do is I'll use the ruler for the first thing over here to really showcase the grind size. So I'll put some on my hand. And then I'll use the ruler to kind of see where the majority of grinds start popping up. Okay, so I would say the grind size over here is around like 1000 to like 1002 microns. And I still have a couple of bigger ones, so maybe like 1003 over here. So that would be the grind size that I'm using right now for this brew over here. Okay, so we got our 20 grams on the dot. Let's get our water. We got our boiling water. We got our coffee filter. I'll be using paper filters. And our cup. So the first thing we do is to preheat. Fold the filter, open it up, pour it in. By the way, I have a really hard time reading the screen on the Instagram thing. Let's see. Oh, hey, Sasha. Yeah, it will produce a different cup. So, Sasha asks on Instagram if there is a big difference between the Hario V60 and the Kalita Wave. And the main difference is that one of them is a flat bottom brewer. Here, I'll show it to you. These are the two different brewers that are in question. So this is the Kalita Wave, which is a flat bottom brewer, while this one is a cone-shaped brewer. And what happens is that this one over here, in my opinion, is suitable for lower brewing ratios than this one, because the Kalita Wave is a bit slower and has a bit more of a balanced extraction, while the Hario V60 is all about speed, which really allows you to get into those higher, finer grind sizes and higher brewing ratios. So I would say this one is a bit more for nuance, tea-like bodies and acidities, while this one is a bit more balance and lower brewing ratios. So yeah, it matters. Okay, so we have preheated. I'm gonna toss that up. Like so. And one thing about the Tetsu Kasuya method is that there is no stirring of the coffee. It's all about pulse pouring and knowing the segments that you're pouring and letting the liquid fully drain out before you add the next segment. So let's begin. I'll bring this a bit closer maybe. I'll move this a bit to the side for Instagram peeps, like so. And we will shortly begin the pour. But first of all, I also need to decrease the water temperature in our kettle down to 92 degrees Celsius. And this starting recipe over here is pretty much from the creator, Tetsu Kasuya. And I'm starting off where he did his tutorials. So whatever he did in his video, that is what I am going off of as my first brew. We'll tweak it as we go, but right now we'll use his starting base setup for the technique as the foundation here. Okay, we have 92 degrees Celsius. We'll pour in our coffee. Shake it out, tear, and begin. So we are pouring 60-gram segments all the time. So the first two pours will control strength and acidity, sweetness and acidity, and the last three pours will control strength. So let's begin the pour. Start the timer. Okay, so I've poured 60 grams of water. Now I'm gonna let it fully drain out, and then I'm gonna pour another 60 grams up to 120 grams of water. And I'm not looking at anything in the bed, I'm more looking at the drainage of the liquid. So when it stops dripping, then I'm pouring my next segment of water here. Now we're pouring all the way up to 120. Like so. And this technique is way more forgiving than other techniques. It's a bit like you can kind of walk away and not worry too much about it, and there's not too much pouring technique that is needed. It's more about just being consistent with following the recipe and staying true to it. Okay, so now we've poured the first two segments and we've controlled the sweetness and acidity. Now we're going for strength, so to balance out the cup of coffee and give it a bit more of a stronger body. So I'm pouring all the way up to 180, like so. And I'm constantly pouring on the sides just to bring the grinds further down in the brew. You don't want the grinds to kind of like stay too far up, so yeah, just consistently bring them down with your pours. Try to pour a bit slow, not as vigorous. And now we're doing the fourth pour. This one goes up to 240. Like so. I would say the only big downside with this this technique is that you need to kind of baby it all the time, as in you need to come back and pour consistently, versus other techniques where you just pour everything in like 2 pours and get it over with. But here you need to like pour 5 different segments and kind of be attentive. So it's not the greatest technique if you want to apply it to like a cafe setting, for example, because there it's really all about being efficient with your movements and kind of not babying every single drink. But it's totally fine for a home cup over here. Okay, so there. We have hit 300 grams of water. So we've done the segments. We've poured in 5 segments, 60 grams each, and we've completed the brew. So I'm looking at it right now, and it seems like the grinds are actually kind of slowing it down a bit. So maybe tomorrow, depending on what I'm tasting in our cup today, I feel like I might have to make it a bit coarser to make the flow rate just slightly faster. Thoughts on Omni Roast? I've never heard of Omni Roast. What is that? Is it like a specific roasting technique? Okay, and that's it. We got our coffee bed. Everything is nice and low. Relatively flat. Nothing to write home about. It looks slightly muddy though, so I would say next time, like, I might have to increase the grind size, make it coarser depending on what I'm tasting in my cup. But for now, let's taste it and see what's up. So we'll give that a stir. And there we have it, our cup of coffee. I'll move you peeps back up again, like so, and like so. Okay, so let's give this a taste and see how the extraction level is and also what it tastes like. It's kind of a bit hot right now, so I'm gonna let it cool down. So in Instagram, they're asking about my thoughts on Omni Roast, and I didn't know what it was. So Omni Roast, according to Shins, is a coffee that has been roasted in a way it can be brewed by any method from filter or espresso. I don't know, I've never heard of it, so I would have to do my research and see what it is and really if it has grounds to stand on, because it seems like something that would be good for everything is a master of nothing. So perhaps it is kind of suitable for every method of brewing, but it might not be the best beans for any brewer. Jack of all trades, master of none. But if you have another experience about it, let me know. Like, I'll look into it for sure. Omni roasting. Okay, time to taste. Let's see what's up. So, right off the bat, it's over extracted. I can taste it on my tongue that it's pretty drying, and it doesn't have a lot of the berry-like acidities that I was experiencing during the cupping session. And I think that I'm totally over extracting it over here. So I need to, like, the first red flag in my mind is that the grind size is just too fine. Seeing the bed being slightly muddy like that in a technique like this that extracts a lot from the bean is not ideally what I want to have. So I think I'll have to change the grind size a lot to the coarser side to compensate, and that's probably what I'll do here. It has a pretty quick finish, so it doesn't linger in your mouth, but the thing that does linger is that dryness, which is not a good quality of the coffee. But I think that, yet again, we started off at a point where the grind size probably wasn't suitable for this brewing technique. And even though I did change it way coarser than what I usually do for a V60, just because of the pulse pouring and the slow brew time of the technique, does this extract way more than usual. So this cup of coffee over here is for sure over extracted, and it doesn't taste that great. Like, I can have faint notes of berries in here, but compared to just the cupping session that I did yesterday where I just added some beans and had it with water, it was just a way cruder method of brewing this coffee, but I got way more out of the coffee as in tastes. So even though this cup is really bad, I feel like it has potential, but we do need to make some big changes and make the grind size coarser. So looking at our brew chart over here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make the grind size way coarser. So let's take it from 40 to 45, like so. And we'll do everything the same tomorrow and hopefully get a more delicious cup of coffee here. So, hey Shins, what's up? I'm glad that you liked my osmotic flow video. It was a really interesting journey to learn about the Japanese pour over technique, the osmotic flow, because I just don't see it that much in the Western world, and I'm for sure gonna try it out a bit more like often and really push the dark roast side of coffee a bit further. So yeah, and I'll also look into the Omni Roast shenanigans. That looks and sounds pretty interesting if it works. So going to this chart over here, I'll move you like so, and I'll bring you closer. Two different views. Whoop. Taste-wise, it was kind of low on the taste. This is amazing, this is whatever. So it was like, I can kind of drink it, but it wasn't the greatest. Extraction-wise, it was way over-extracted. So it was over here. And extraction. And yet again, what we're gonna do is we're gonna change the grind size. So this is gonna be 45 instead of 40, and we're gonna keep everything else the same for tomorrow. Oh, I see some like Brampton peeps in the in the Instagram. Yo, what up? But yeah, that's it for today's brew. So far, it's the first cup. We kind of know that we have to start somewhere, and it wasn't the greatest, but that is totally fine. We're gonna change our grind size tomorrow, we're gonna make it better, and we're gonna improve on what we have. We already know from the cupping that these beans have a lot of potential, so what we just need to do is to bring out that potential out of the beans and make a delicious cup of coffee. So I'll see you maybe tomorrow. This was a fun experiment with both Instagram Live and YouTube right over here. I'm totally gonna keep on doing it because I'm brewing coffee every day anyways on YouTube Live, so might as well add Instagram to the mix. So I'll see all of you maybe tomorrow. I'll say bye to YouTube first. Take care, everyone. Like so. And then I'll say bye to you guys.